What would happen if 4 icons of the Minecraft universe went toe-to-toe to toe-to-toe in a battle to determine who would come out on top? I'm Ink and this is Smash Bracket, a show dedicated to solving that exact question. If each and every playable character from the Super Smash Bros. Series was put into a giant fighting tournament using them at the peak of their strength, who would be victorious? The rules for this series are on screen now, with a link for a further breakdown in the description below. With all that in place, let's see which of our playable Minecraft characters are the most powerful in their universe, and see who will represent the series in a fight against Villager. Let's get into it. The cube-like world of Minecraft is full of monsters, adventurers, and so many cursed internet videos and music parodies. So many music parodies. In the world of Minecraft, it isn't incredibly uncommon to find a wide variety of things that go bump in the night. Whether it's the self-exploding creeper, undead skeletal archers, or spiders, which, embarrassingly enough, have been the cause of about 90% of my deaths in Minecraft. But among all of these infamous monsters, 2 stand apart from the rest as some of the most recognizable and dangerous: Endermen and zombies. Now, these creatures aren't anything new to any experienced adventurer. Neither zombies nor Endermen are typically a match for any player, even those at the start of the game. However, while these monsters may seem underwhelming, things start to look a little bit differently when you look at the peak of each species and what they're capable of. Let's take the Enderman for example. These silent but deadly warriors come from a world beyond our own dimensions, in a place beyond creation itself, simply referred to as the End. In this dark and bleak dimension, Endermen roam around in nearly endless numbers, seemingly centered around the home of the legendary Ender Dragon. While their hive mind and general apathy toward players may cause you to think of them as mindless drones, Endermen actually have a deep and complex culture dedicated to one thing and one thing only: the Great Chaos, which is an entity that embodies the very concept of chaos itself. In an effort to worship this entity, Endermen don't build structures, hence the emptiness of the End. Instead, they roam around the overworld to move blocks and disrupt the natural order of things, and dismantle human-built structures. As a result of these journeys of destruction, Endermen as a species have learned firsthand how dangerous humans can be, with thousands of their kind falling to the handcrafted weapons of adventurers. But Endermen weren't gonna just float there and take it. As a species, they've spent thousands and thousands of years developing anti-adventurer combat techniques. They created special training areas where individual Endermen would spend hundreds of years training endlessly in combat arts, specifically designed to take down players. In fact, they spend almost every single moment of their existence training for an opportunity to fight and kill humans. Each Enderman becomes an expert of hand-to-hand combat, and is eventually taught how to master weapon-based combat as well. Even though constructs like weapons and armor are considered to be a tool of order and not chaos, they were deemed to be far too effective to ignore. And I know what you're thinking. If Endermen are supposedly such a well-trained threat, how come they pose very little challenge at all in the Minecraft overworld? Well, unfortunately, when most Endermen see a human, they're thrown into such a blind, instinctive rage that they lose contact with their hive mind and forget all of their training. And this is why most Endermen that you see in Minecraft pose very little threat at all. But beneath their rage is a trained and hardened killer, and those who can control their anger and keep their head would become a major threat to any player. Endermen house a range of abilities that become incredibly dangerous, such as being able to weave together teleportation, mind reading, expertise in hand-to-hand and weapons-based combat allowing them to dodge any projectile attacked, and the ability to transport themselves and others to the End at will, where anybody without the ability to fly will be quickly swallowed up by the void. And all of these are combined with hundreds and hundreds of years of combat and tactics training, more than making up for the fact that they're weak to objects as mundane as water. But Endermen aren't the only threats in the world of Minecraft. One of the most common and overlooked monsters is the simple zombie. Zombies are by far the most numerous enemies in all of Minecraft, and they're one of the only mobs who prefer to fight in groups rather than taking on their opponents solo. Most scientists in the world of Minecraft agree that zombies were actually players at one point, whose bodies are now in an advanced state of decay. And while that's not an incredibly pleasant thought, the visual similarities between the clothes and physiques of players is undeniable. While they are mostly mindless and operate on a bloodthirsty instinct, zombies do have some form of organizational structure within their ranks. And the biggest threat among them all is the zombie leader. These things are intelligent enough to use armors and weapons, but their true strength comes in numbers. As I said, zombies prefer to fight in groups. So what can they realistically do in a situation like today's battle, where they must fight an entire fight by themselves? The answer is simple. If you can't bring zombie friends, then make them instead. Each time a zombie leader is hit by an attack, there's up to a 75% chance that they'll spawn more zombies for reinforcements. And each of these new recruits can hold up to a 10% chance to spawn into even more zombies on top of that each time they're hit. This unique racial trait can turn a single zombie into somewhat of a Minecraft equivalent of a Hydra. Strike one down and 5 more can take its place. And not all zombies are created equally. Apart from the standard run-of-the-mill zombies that we're all familiar with, there's also 9 racial variants, each of which impart unique abilities and benefits to the zombie. The frozen zombie, for example, can freeze players in their tracks with a ranged snowball attack, and the jungle zombie can poison their targets on contact. There's also variants that can use the death magic of necromancy, blast out steam projectiles, summon lightning, or the most dangerous zombie variant of all, babies. These little suckers are just as tough as fully grown zombies, but they're way faster, which is incredibly helpful when the zombies use their preferred method of attack, running into their opponents over and over until they die. But while hordes of zombies wreak havoc throughout the villages of Minecraft, and Endermen train endlessly their capabilities as lethal killers, the world of Minecraft isn't without heroes to oppose this world's monsters. These are the explorers who work to craft a safer world. These are the warriors who work to fight off hordes of monsters to their dying breath. These are the players. Players make their way through the world of Minecraft, creating weapons, crafting homes, and weaponizing fishing poles in bizarre player versus player combat. The players are at the true heart of Minecraft, representing its endless creativity and serving as an avatar for us in the real world to be able to interact with the game. But among the endlessly customizable avatars in Minecraft, 2 stand above the rest as the most famous: the male default skin known as Steve, and the female default skin known as Alex. Steve and Alex have been part of the world of Minecraft for years, and share an identical arsenal and physical abilities. The duo carry a vast array of weapons, tools, and potions to prepare them for anything that they might face in the overworld. The axe, pickaxe, and shovel are all made to help terraform their surroundings, as they chop down trees, mine through solid stone, and tear out pieces of the earth to add to their inventory. The resources gathered from these tools can give the players access to even more craftable items. Weapons such as the bow or sword can be made from a plethora of natural components, from fragile but easy to find wood to nigh unbreakable netherite. But by far, the most iconic material in Minecraft is the ultra-hard diamond. Weapons, armors, and tools made from diamond dish out serious damage. They're incredibly durable, and they sparkle like a vampire on a hot summer day. And these things can be made even better by harnessing the power of enchantments. Alex and Steve can use magic to enhance their gear to an all-time high. The protection charm, for example, can reduce damage by 96% when applied to the strongest armor in the game. Enchantments can also protect players from elemental damage, summon lightning from the sky, increase damage output, and most importantly of all, drastically increase their chances of winning a fishing competition with the lure enchantment. Now that's my kind of use of magic. The player's magic isn't just limited to enchanting gear though. They can also brew magical potions with a broad array of effects. These potions can increase their speed, slow their falls, and allow them to turn invisible and breathe underwater. Or it could apply a passive healing to help keep players alive. Steve and Alex also have some offensive potions, which can be used to slow down and weaken their targets, or to deal straight damage with a potion of harming, although this has the opposite effect on zombies and heals them instead. Gear and magic are nice and all, but what truly sits at the heart of Minecraft is the crafting system. With this, a player can create new gear or weapons to replace old equipment, but they can also program traps with redstone, build intricate contraptions like catapults to launch projectiles, and most impressively of all, they can place blocks in just the right order to create new life and spawn creatures like an iron golem to assist them in combat. Steve and Alex also hold a plethora of items to assist them in their journeys. Among these are the Elytra wings, which grant flight for a limited time and can be propelled to great speed with fireworks. A few other notable items are the laser beacon, ender pearls, and the totems of undying. I could go on and on, but Steve and Alex's arsenals are so diverse that we'd be here all day. That said, all of this brings up a question. If Steve and Alex are so similar in their arsenal and abilities, does anything differentiate them? And the answer is actually yes. It boils down to one word: strategy. Steve and Alex are both veterans of the world of Minecraft, but they represent very different sides of the game. These differences can be found in the official Minecraft books titled The Island and The Mountain, as well as being substantiated through officially published advertisements, cinematics, and promotional imagery for the game. Let's start with ladies first, Alex. Alex represents the adventurous side of Minecraft. She's often seen running into danger head-on to fight whatever obstacles await her. She's tactical, scrappy, and adept at hand-to-hand combat. She excels at many different forms of battle, and she's even taught Steve a thing or two about how to hold his own in a fight. Steve, on the other hand, represents the more creative side of Minecraft. While Alex feels alive on the battlefield, Steve prefers to spend his time mining and perfecting his skills with alchemy. Between his intelligent crafting and mining, delicate potion mixing, and efforts to write a list of fressons, which were his lessons to help Alex learn how to be a better friend to the denizens of Minecraft. Yes, that's a real thing for some reason. Steve has a much different approach to battle and life itself. And it's because of these differences that Alex and Steve operate very differently when put into tense combat situations. Alex is likely to charge in immediately with a powerful weapon and go to town, whereas Steve is much more prone to stay back, analyze the situation, and engage only when the perfect moment strikes. But now that we've gone over the general lore and abilities of each of our fighters, let's take a minute to break down their physical abilities. Let's start by talking about usable combat speed. This is the speed at which a fighter can meaningfully control themselves around a battlefield and a combat situation. The Enderman is probably the least straightforward to measure, since they prefer to teleport during combat rather than physically maneuver themselves. However, they are capable of reacting to and dodging quick projectiles fired by Alex and Steve. Zombies have a range of speeds that depend on their variant, but the fastest is definitely the baby zombie, who specializes in rushing down their opponents. But this brings us to the heroes of our game, Steve and Alex. Now normally, these two can maneuver in combat at about 12.5 miles per hour, but they're able to boost this up to nearly 18 miles per hour with the assistance of a potion of swiftness. Now that's it for speed. It wasn't too bad, but things start to get a little bit more complicated when we stop talking about speed and start talking about strength and durability. The world of Minecraft is packed full of heavy ore and remarkable landmarks that seemingly would require huge amounts of energy to obliterate with TNT. Just a simple glance at something like mowing through a mountain with nothing but an enchanted pickaxe, or looking at a character's ability to carry a massive inventory, would lead one to think that all of the characters of Minecraft are packing some serious strength. Unfortunately, things are a bit more complicated than that. The entire universe of Minecraft is consistently portrayed in the games and described in its extended media as having a totally different mechanical system behind its strength, gravity, and durability, not to mention the mechanics of breaking apart material in general. For example, when a player picks up an item, rather than lifting it with their physical strength like we would do in real life, that item instead becomes entirely weightless upon touching it. This means that every tool, every block, or even every animal that the player picks up has absolutely zero reliance on their physical strength. If they need to hold more items than their hands can carry, they're able to fold up any of these items or blocks like a playing card almost and stick it into a weightless pocket dimension. Once again, not relying on their physical strength. And this physics system applies to more than just lifting. For example, if Steve decided to go punch a tree, it also wouldn't rely on his physical strength. Instead of breaking apart materials with his bare fists, to him this action is more akin to holding down a button until the item breaks apart. And this same thing applies to the other monsters, where the mere act of touching a creature is the deciding factor in beating them, not physically striking them with force. And this makes strength in Minecraft incredibly ambiguous to pin down. We could try to figure out different ways to measure Minecraft's world with our own, but ultimately these are characters who exist entirely in a world that requires zero physical strength to excel in, meaning that they can pick up solid gold blocks in their world no problem, but they do so under physics entirely different than our own. Putting numbers on what these characters are capable of through strength would be a disservice and distraction from how they actually operate, and instead they should be treated as a self-contained universe. But with all that said and done, it's time for our fight. But first, if your curiosity has been piqued about the lore of Minecraft and its inner workings, consider checking out their series of books available on Audible. The first one is narrated by Bowser himself, Jack Black, for some reason, but they're all incredibly fun to listen to. Use our link in the description to get a free audiobook and listen along with us. Doing so sends $10 our way and helps sustain the channel. But with that in place, let's get into the fight to see who will advance on to be the representative of the Minecraft universe in Smash Bracket. Let's get into it. And there you go! I was honestly really surprised about how this battle turned out. Playing through Minecraft would easily give the impression that Steve and Alex were the only true contenders here, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, each and every fighter here had their own viable way to stand on their own in combat. Let's start with our 4th place contestant, Zombie. Far and away their biggest disadvantage was lack of strategy. Zombies are mostly mindless, and while they can be threatening, they're not too big of an issue for a properly equipped character. Their biggest strength comes from their numbers, which could somewhat be recreated through the zombie leader's ability to duplicate themselves after receiving damage, but ultimately the strategy and ranged options of their opponents proved to be too much for Zombie to overcome. And that brings us to 3rd place, where we had Mr. Minecraft himself, Steve. Steve had every physical advantage and item that Alex had, with the added bonus of excelling at alchemy and mining. The issue is that Steve just isn't as skilled of a tactician as his 2 opponents who beat him out. Both in the books and other official material, Steve is consistently portrayed as somebody with a tender heart, but not somebody who's suited well for battle. He's consistently shown making basic mistakes, like mining straight down, having a poor choice of what weapons to bring into battle, and preferring to play with bunnies rather than helping Alex engage in combat. He had all of the tools that he needed to win, but he just didn't have the strategy required to take him to the top. Maybe he ought to add study strategy more often to his list of fresens. And this brings us to our runner-up, Enderman. To be entirely honest, the Endermen nearly took this entire battle. They can dodge any projectile Steve and Alex can throw at them, and they had an incredibly reliable win condition by taking their targets and teleporting them to the end. Not to mention that the Endermen had centuries of study under their belt to learn the ins and outs of combat. Nearly every single minute of their life was dedicated to learning how to kill characters exactly like Steve and Alex. They knew exactly what Alex could throw at them, and they were prepared to deal with it and adjust their strategy on the fly. So why did the Endermen lose? Ultimately, this boiled down to a case of knowledge versus experience. While the Enderman has studied the ins and outs of combat for hundreds of years, most of this knowledge was theoretical. Rather than actually training against human players, Endermen almost only train against other Endermen. And while this training was specifically focused on anti-human warfare, a vast majority of Endermen who actually fought humans lost their cool, forgot their training, and died. So while this training was undoubtedly useful, it just can't compare to Alex, who not only has experience fighting human opponents like Steve and zombies, but she's also likely faced hundreds if not thousands of Endermen herself. Both the Enderman and Alex had a strong knowledge of what the other could do, but in the end, Alex had way more experience fighting Endermen than the Enderman had fighting Alex. So when all is said and done, Alex is the winner of the Minecraft Battle Royale and will be the Minecraft Universe's champion to represent her series in the Smash Bracket and fight against Animal Crossing's Villager. Next time on the Smash Bracket.